Hey everybody, it's Audrey from Audrey Approved. Welcome or welcome back. Today I'm going to do kind of two videos in one. I'm going to do 24 books for 2024 and I'm also going to do a video on my entire physical TBR. Now everybody has preferences when it comes to how many books they own, how many books they feel comfortable owning and all of that. And I recognize it's different for everybody, but for me, having a big physical TBR, so having like the real books, is not super reflective of how I actually read. I vastly prefer reading in digital format and reading from my library compared to reading a physical book. If I have both the e-copy and the physical copy, I will almost always choose the e-copy, and there's various reasons for that. I like the ease of switching between books. I like that I can look up words. I like that I can highlight different things and have it digitally saved. I don't know, it just works for me. It's worked for me for many years now. So I don't think having a big TBR for me is a great thing. And so over time, over the past few years, I've kind of worked my physical TBR down to, as of right now, it's 27 books. And so my goal next year is, I don't have any goals in terms of like buying or how I buy books, but my goal is to read down 24 of these 27 books. And the main reason I just want to do this is that, you know, these books have been with me. They've moved with me multiple times. Some of them I think I've had for like a decade and I just haven't gotten to. And I think, you know, if I had to choose 24 books today to represent like what I want to read and what my tastes are, they wouldn't necessarily be the 24 that I'm talking about now, but they do kind of reflect my taste over time. And I think that's interesting. And so in 2024, I'm hoping to at least pick up and try each of these. It's 2 per month. It feels very reasonable to me. And just see if I like it. If I don't like it, I'll DNF it, I'll get rid of my copy, I'll donate it, and I'll just move on. So very quickly, I'll mention the 3 that I'm just kind of holding on to for now. And they're actually 3 books that that I think would work well for this Read the World project that I'm doing, but I'm doing a Read the World project in mostly alphabetical order, and these books come from countries that are not close to where we are right now. Right now, I think we're sitting at the I's, and I have 3 books here. I have Pavane for a Dead Princess, which is an option I think for South Korea. I have The Mermaid of Black Conch, which I think works for Trinidad and Tobago. And then I have Paradise of the Blind, which is for a Vietnam pick. And so, yeah, I still have probably like 3 years before I get to V. So this one I'll just hold on to for now. But for the rest of the books, the remaining 24, I've kind of made my own kind of arbitrary categories to make things fun, and I'll just walk through them. So my first category are just big boys. They're chunky reads, and I think there is something intimidating, especially in a physical format, with picking up a larger or a longer book. But yeah, these are the ones that I do really need to prioritize. So first up, we actually have the book. I think this is the one that most recently got added to my physical shelves, but it is City of Saints and Madmen by Jeff Vandermeer, which is the first book in I think the Ambergris trilogy. I read Annihilation a long time ago. I don't know, I think I had kind of medium feelings on it, but I have watched Pages of Carolyn, her channel, and she really loves Vandermeer. I think she owns like, she's owned and she's read and she's raved about all the Vandermeer books. So I'm really intrigued by this one. It gives me vibes similar to Invisible Cities by Calvino when I read through some of the comments. And so eager to get to this one, although I'm gonna try not to say I'm excited or I'm eager for all of these. And then, ironically, the next one is probably the one that's been on my shelves for the longest, which is the Windup Bird Chronicle by Murakami. I have read a few other Murakamis in the past. They've all been his like shorter ones. I haven't read any of his chunkier Murakamis. I'm not sure. There's just something about this one that I just look at it and I'm like, not yet. I'm not ready to. So we'll see. I also have, I think the only one that was a gift from this list, which is American Revolutions by Alan Taylor, which is a history of, it's American history around the Civil War. And I know nothing about American history. This is not a book that I would normally pick up, but I did check out the ratings after I got it, and it's got just some really excellent ratings. So I'm gonna try this and see what I think of it and see how I feel about learning about American history, because I don't remember it from high school. One that I'm gonna use the term super excited about, but I am super excited about is Leonardo da Vinci by Walter Isaacson. Walter Isaacson is, you know, super famous biographer. He just came out with the one about Elon Musk, but I am way more interested in Leonardo da Vinci than I am in Elon Musk. I read Caravaggio by Andrew Graham Dixon earlier this year. That's gonna make, I think, my favorites of 2023, and so I've really enjoyed artist biographies, especially chunky ones, and I definitely wanted to read this one in print format because there's just a lot of art and diagrams and kind of content in here. So I think this one is much better in print format than any other sort of format. And then one that I'm nervous about, but I will get to, is A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara. Actually, I think this one was a gift as well. I know it's sad. One of my coworkers and friends calls books like this trauma fic, and I think she's got a point, but we'll see. The next category is sci-fi. So one that could have fit into Chunky Boys, but I'm fitting into sci-fi, is Seveneves by Neal Stephenson. This came recommended by a friend and I bought it like 2 years ago. And I'm actually going to buddy read this in 2024, starting January 1st with Tiffany over at Towering TBR. So I'm eager to get to this one. This is about, I think it's like it spans, maybe it's millennia or many thousands of years, and it's a sci-fi colonization story, I do believe. I also have On the Origin of Species and Other Stories by Bo Young Kim, which has a stunning cover. I really love this cover. Bo Young Kim gives me Ted Chiang vibes, except Bo Young Kim is a South Korean author, and so I get similar vibes from both of those authors. I love Ted Chiang's short stories, so I think that bodes well for this one. And then lastly in this category, I picked this up from actually the little free library down the street from me, and that is The Windup Girl by Paolo Bacigalupi. I'm gonna make a guess there. And this is a Nebula Award winner, and it has to do with, I think it's set in futuristic Thailand, where food and calories have become currency. So it's an intriguing idea, and I like the idea of kind of an Asian-inspired sci-fi story. Now next up we have, I would call like historical fiction and literary fiction, which I used to read more of, and I just feel like partly because of this Read the World challenge, I read a lot of my historical and literary fiction in that challenge. So reading books outside of that project, I feel like I'm just not as likely to pick up those types of books, but you know, reading habits change from year to year. So we'll see how I feel next year. But we have the very famous Hamlet by Maggie O'Farrell, story about grief. And I do think that this is going to be one that I will like. This is like a 5-star anticipated read for me. I also have An Unusual Grief by Yewande Omotoso, which I remember was really hard for me to source. I remember I saw this on Goodreads, and then I read the description. I wanted to get a copy of it, and then every bookstore that I walked into just didn't have a copy of it. But it is about a Nigerian mother, and I think the book opens with her daughter having just passed away, and this mother has to come to terms with how little she knew about her daughter, but after her daughter is already gone. It's also a French flap, which I really like in my physical copies. And then I have always really enjoyed, she doesn't make that many videos, but I've always really enjoyed Jennifer from Insert Literary Pun Here, which ironically is a lot of literary fiction, and I'm pretty sure this recommendation came from her. It's Bodies of Light by Sarah Moss, which I think focuses on a mother-daughter relationship in, maybe it's the 1800s in England. And then I also have Hag, which is a stunning cover in my opinion. I think this was very much a cover buy, which doesn't actually happen for me quite often. I'm actually pretty good at walking out of bookstores without buying books. I don't know if that's it's a humble brag maybe. Sorry if that rubs people the wrong way, but this one I couldn't walk away. And this is a collection of short stories that are all inspired by folktales from the British Isles. So they're, I think, contemporary retellings. I am hoping to come out with a retellings video next year, and so this one might make the cut if it also is as good as it looks from the outside. And then lastly for this category we have Deacon King Kong by James McBride. James McBride has a book that has recently come out. I think it's like the Heaven and Hell grocery store, something like that, which I've seen really good reviews for. And I do really want to read that, but I own this one, so I'm going to try to get to this first. And this is set in 1970s in New York, and it has to do, I think, with a murder and trying to figure out what happens with that murder. And then classics. I don't read a ton of classics usually, but I do have a few. The first one is Perfume by Patrick Suskind, which is, I think, from the point of view of a murderer, so maybe a little dark. I was debating reading this for Germany, for the Germany pick, but we ended up going with All Quiet on the Western Front, which I really loved. That's another classic novel, so I really enjoyed that one. I was glad I picked that one. But this one I think might be a good October read, maybe, if I decide to pick things up seasonally. And then I also have Fictions by Borges, who is a very famous Argentinian author. Borges is very frequently compared to Calvino, and like I've said before, I do really enjoy Calvino, especially Calvino short stories. So this one, you know, a short little one, easy one to get to, hopefully. And then this is maybe the book that I'm most ashamed for not having read, and that is Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. And I am a self-professed Pride and Prejudice movie lover, especially the BBC 1995 miniseries, and I've just never read the book. And so I got like this beautifully like illustrated copy of Pride and Prejudice, which I'm hoping to kind of savor and enjoy as I pick up my very first Jane Austen. Then the last fiction pieces before I move on to nonfiction. This actually is very much weighted towards fiction than nonfiction, which again is not super reflective of, I guess, my reading taste as of right now, but my reading taste of the past. And this section is basically like J.R.R. Tolkien. So I am a huge fan of the Nerd of the Rings YouTube channel. It is a fantastic YouTube channel. I will link it, like all the other ones I mentioned, down below. And one of the videos that they've come out with is this video on like what order to read Tolkien books. And so I've read The Hobbit, I read Lord of the Rings. They're all fantastic as audiobooks narrated by Andy Serkis. But the book that he recommends reading next is actually The Children of Hurin, which is a piece of like actual fiction. So some of Tolkien's published works also include like commentary as well. So this is actually like, you know, a narrative piece with like a full plot. And this takes place in, I think, the First Age. So Lord of the Rings takes place in the Third Age. This takes place in the First Age. It has to do with Turin, who is the son of Hurin, and his battle with Morgoth. And Morgoth is kind of the OG bad boy. He is, you know, Sauron's boss. So Sauron from the movies, it's his boss that I think Turin is fighting here. So I don't know much about it, but I am eager to get to it. And then after that, I will brave the Silmarillion, which I am actually extremely excited to get to Silmarillion. I have watched so many videos from Nerd of the Rings going through the history of Middle-earth, and so I was really intimidated by the Silmarillion because it's basically like, I think of it as like almost biblical stories from Middle-earth. But because I've watched so many of those videos and I feel like I have a good foundational base, I am extremely excited. And my copy again has photos and images, and so I think it's going to be really good. I'm hoping to really savor this and work through it really slowly. And then lastly, very lastly, we have 6 more books to round out the 24 books for 2024, and I split them into nonfiction that is hyped about and nonfiction that is not hyped about. So the first one is the hyped books, and so we have Underland, A Deep Time Journey by Robert McFarlane, which I think was a BookTube darling a few years ago, or at least when it came out. You know, I think this is about places that are underneath the earth, but it almost gives travelogue vibes. So I've read quite a few travelogues as part of the Read the World project, and I do really like that subgenre. And so I'm hoping this one will be similar to that, so we'll see. I did try reading it, I remember, a while ago, and it felt very dense and very poetic, and so I think this one will require a little bit of focus. And then I also have Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker, which I also started reading in the past, and then I put down, I had gotten gotten, I think, an audiobook copy from the library, and I realized that the author was referencing and talking about a lot of plots and graphs, and so I realized I wanted to read it kind of in a print format. I know that this book will make me feel bad about my sleep hygiene, because my sleep hygiene is incredibly poor, but it should be a very enlightening read. This is also an anticipated 5-star read for me, and hopefully after I read this and I feel bad about how poorly I have my sleep schedule, I can then pick up Atomic Habits, which will give me the skills to make my sleep schedule better. So this is actually a book that's already been picked, I think, for the February book for the book club that I help run at work, and so people wanted to read it, we got to vote on it, and yeah, I'll finally get to this. I think I bought this as like, I probably bought it as like a New Year's resolution like 5 years ago, and I just haven't gotten to it because I don't tend to gravitate towards self-help books, but maybe with a kind of a group dynamic and a group discussion, it'll be something that I'm more likely to pick up and to get something out of. And then the last 3, again, this section is nonfiction that is not hyped about, and these are all books that I actually remember buying because I couldn't get an ebook or an audiobook copy from either the library or other places. I do vastly prefer my nonfiction as audio. That's how I read probably like 90% of my nonfiction. But these I have to be in print format because I couldn't get them any other way. So I have Julia Ebner's Going Dark, The Secret Social Lives of Extremists. It's all about how people get into extremist groups, terrorist groups. I think also cults are in here. I was debating this one and Cultish, which has a really stunning cover, although I like this cover as well. I ended up going for this one, but if I like it, I might also pick up Cultish as an audiobook from the library. And then I also have the Tsarina's Lost Treasure, which combines 2 topics that I have so much interest in, which is art, especially stolen or lost art, and shipwrecks. And so this is all about a ship full of art that was going to, I think, Catherine the Great. Catherine the Great in Russia, and it sunk in the Baltic Sea, and I believe it was found. I think this is the story of how that shipwreck was found and the story of why and how it went down. And then lastly, we have a cover that I do actually love as well, which is Beyond Belief, How Pentecostal Christianity is Taking Over the World by L. Hardy. Because I like reading, I guess, secular histories of religion. That's another video that I am planning on coming out with in 2024. So reading, 6 or 7 books on that subject and then talking about all of them together at once. This is one that I want to add to it. Again, I do love that cover. And yeah, those are my 24 books for 2024, which happen to be almost all of the physical books that I still own. And again, I'm sure I'll buy more physical books next year. I'll just happen to do that, and that's fine. And we'll just add those to the list, and I'll read them at a different time. But it's these 24 that I definitely want to get to, and hopefully it'll be manageable at just 2 books per month. I say that now, but just 2 books per month. Again, if you've read any of them, or if you are also looking to read any of them, let me know down below, and I'll see you next time. Take care.